Good morning, boys and girls. This is Mr. K, your art teacher, welcoming you to another day of distance learning. This is week 6, over the hump day, Wednesday. Welcome. Here are the supplies that we're going to be using today for our two-dimensional rendition of a three-dimensional object. Basic pencil, large pink eraser, blending stump. If you don't have a blending stump, use your finger, use a Q-tip, roll up some paper towel, use a Kleenex, take a little strip of paper, roll it up. The choices and possibilities are endless and yours. Also, I'm going to pull in a ruler from time to time. We'll give you some basic measurements on some of the components of the three-dimensional mannequin. Here he is. If we were in school, you would have him in front of you. You could position him according to whatever type of a pose you wanted to sketch out, but since we don't have that advantage, I had you kiddos go online, and hopefully you were able to share a few photos of mannequins from the internet to your device. So hopefully you saved, I don't know, 3 or 4 images of the wooden mannequin in various positions. That's going to be important towards you submitting an assignment towards the end of the week for grading purposes. Okay, now before we get to the mannequin, I just wanted to show you something here that I normally do with kids in school, but we're not in the regular brick and mortar school any longer, so we'll do it online here. But lots of times I'd say to the kids, draw me a circle, and to the right of it, try and replicate and duplicate that same circle. Draw a second version as close to the original as possible. Doesn't have to be perfect, of course. I say that a lot. Just do your best. So there's my 2 circles. And lots of times I will help kids identify, whoop, made a little mistake here. Hang on a second. You pull in my eraser. Okay, back at it. Lots of times I'll help kids identify that the first one is a shape. We all learn basic shapes in preschool and kindergarten. Now the catch is, in art, how do you take a shape? Oh, there goes my wooden mannequin, but guess what? He landed on his feet. That was a good trick, Woody. Very good. So how do you take a shape and turn it into a form? Well, it depends on a light source, of course. Let's say I've got a light source hovering above this soon-to-be sphere right here. Okay, so the top of it will be highlit, while the back edge will be somewhat darker. So as you can see, I'm using these little hatch marks on the back edge to give the shape some form. And then lots of times I'll explain to the kiddos, and we talked about this a little bit when we did the 2-point perspective. There's a thing on the ground called a cast shadow, just like we were talking about when we drew the tree. And there was a dark side of the tree and a lighter side to the tree. And sometimes I get in there and I carve out a deeper, darker shadow close to the object itself, and then the shadow kind of dissipates as the shadow gets farther and farther away from the object. So that's just a real basic little mini lesson on how shapes become form, or forms, plural. Okay? So let's keep that in mind as we turn this paper over. And what I'm going to share with you is a bunch of shapes. Let me move my camera a little bit. Bunch of shapes that are going to comprise this mannequin of ours. So I'm going to the top of the page here, and typically what I do to start my character is I go with kind of an oval, and I always tell my portrait drawers that the bottom edge of the face is always going to be narrower than the top. Okay, now I'm sort of looking at my wooden friend, and I'm noticing at the bottom of the oval there's more of a rounded off section. So I don't know what it reminds me of. Maybe a light bulb, the top of a light bulb perhaps. Okay, something to that effect. Okay, there's also like these flattened parts. You don't have to draw these if you don't want, but I'm just kind of putting them in for the heck of it. It's just kind of fun. Okay, it gives him kind of a reminds me of Venom from Spider-Man, or like Boba Fett from Star Wars or something like that. Okay, and then I'm going to say that my light source is coming in somewhere from the right. So maybe I'll put some of those hatch marks to the left, and we'll just stick with that as a theme, like our shadows are going to be to the left. Okay? Alright, so there's the head of our wooden mannequin. Okay, I'm going to pull in my ruler here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself roughly a 4-inch line that's going to come down from the center of the head that I just drew. Okay, and this will be kind of like a benchmark measurement for the bottom of the torso. So this will be kind of like the belt line, if you will, somewhere in here. You'll hear me say that word a lot. There's going to be a torso, so that's going to be kind of like roughly the area from the chin or the neck down to the belt line. Okay, so underneath the head that we just drew is a sphere that will represent the neck. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give this mannequin kind of like a collarbone, if you will. And if you're wondering about how long that line is, I really don't know. So let's throw a little measurement on it. It's about 2 inches, okay? So if you want to think about roughly an inch to the right and an inch to the left, that'll be just fine. Okay, I'm kind of positioning here. Give me a moment. I'm kind of positioning the mannequin there so I can get a good overall view of it. And sometimes what I do is I give a back edge to that collarbone, because Woody is kind of comprised of these three-dimensional parts, so it kind of makes it appear a little more three-dimensional. And I'll put a little shadow here on his neck. Okay? Alright. Pulling down just a little ways is this U shape representing the upper torso. Connected to the U shape is a straight line on each side. Now notice I still have a little bit of space down here towards the bottom of the lower torso. We want to be able to save some of that extra space because we've got a little more of the torso to draw. But as you can see, my sketch lines, excuse me, I'm sorry. My sketch lines are very gestural. They're kind of loosey-goosey. Sorry, I had something caught in my throat. Loosey-goosey and gestural in nature. Okay? There's the little hatch marks that we have been referencing, creating a darker side in contrast to the lighter side. And you can always take your blending stump and smear those around, as you know. So boys and girls, we are officially at our midterm. So keep working hard. Got about 4 weeks or so left of school. That's a good feeling. All right, let's continue on with some elements of the lower torso. There's a sphere in here, but you can't quite see all of it. You see most of it, but it's kind of like the top and bottom of it are semi-hidden. Okay. Hope you're enjoying yourself. I hope you like the freedom of the gestural sketch. Doesn't tie you into any particular set design. Gives you freedom to adapt and refine your art as we move forward. Okay? Last thing I'm going to do today, because I don't ever want these videos to be too lengthy for any one particular session. Let's pull down this neat looking shape. And the bottom of this shape will land in line with that 4-inch benchmark that we created at the outset of the lesson here. Okay, let's give this lower torso some of those hatch marks as well. Okay, so in summary, we talked about basic shapes turning into forms, excuse me again, by way of some shading and shadowing, utilizing these little hatch marks and our blending stone. This is kind of an oval shape that tapers at the bottom. U shape, which is kind of flat on the top with the collarbone. There's a sphere for the neck. This is kind of like a rounded off square, if you will. It reminds me kind of like of a marshmallow. This guy here, mostly a sphere. And then this one here reminds me of kind of like a bell shape. Okay, so I hope you had fun today, boys and girls. Keep this sketch handy. We're going to add to it way more tomorrow. Okay, until then, be kind to others. Get outside, enjoy some fresh air. Help somebody at home. And be a blessing to somebody else today, okay? And in turn, you will be a very, very well-rewarded person, because I believe if you put positive energy out there, it's going to come back and find you, and you're going to have many, many blessings and good things in your life. Okay, kiddos, we'll talk again tomorrow. In the meantime, be good. Happy drawing. Bye now.